Hey everybody, I'm Cody. I'm gonna hop over to the other side, maybe. We can share the stage like that a little bit. First time doing a joint talk, so pretty excited. Pretty happy to be here. I wanna thank everyone for coming to see this talk, and thanks to all the organizers at OpenUK for making this happen. Such an amazing event. So happy to be here sharing the stage with Lise. The QR code that you see in the corner, you can scan that anytime you want, and you can interact with us live. Put some emojis up on the screen. I love to create human interactions with everybody here, so let me know that you're watching this presentation. Scan that QR code if you can, and that way I'll know how many people are watching. So I'm Cody Zuschlag. I'm a staff developer relations engineer at Nearform, so I'm super happy. Okay, cool. People are watching. I saw some confetti go by, so that's what I wanted to see. And we're here to talk about the accessibility theme builder. So should we jump in? Let's get the party started. I got a lot of QR codes. We got QR codes everywhere, so we'll put more of those up there later. But do connect with us on LinkedIn. I'll make that shout out at the end. Also, would love to connect. Go all the way through to connect. Don't just do follow, because I'd love to connect with you later. So the agenda today. Lisa, do you want to talk about the agenda?
Yeah, sure. So we're just going to, first of all, talk to you guys about the current state of the design to development process and why there's a lot of pain points for designers, developers, and for the end users, and why accessibility is sort of taking a back seat in that pipeline. We'll talk about what accessibility and inclusive accessibility means. Then we will talk about what if we took a different approach to this? What if we took an open source approach to this? And what if we could build the logic of creating accessible experiences into the way that we built design systems? We will introduce you to our project theme builder. We will show you how it works. And then we will give you a little roadmap of where we think we're taking theme builder towards the future.
That's great. Love that. Don't be shy with emojis. That makes me happy when I see those go by. So I want to go back, way back to the beginning of time, beginning of software development. And we've had the same story over and over and over again, that we have practitioners working on the same team, but still working in silos. Like silos is the word that we've been using for so long when we're thinking about designing modern software applications. And solutions are created in silos, right? So we have teams that work in silos. We have organizations that are structured into silos. And then we're creating solutions in silos. And designers don't always work closely with developers. Like there's silos just in people's job titles. Like there's so many silos that we see in an organization. And inevitably, Conway's Law, like our software is going to resemble the organizational structure. So these are some of the challenges that we see when we're working towards trying to ease the communication between designers and developers and getting our applications out there in an efficient way and the way that everybody's happy working on these projects. So what are some of the reasons why this happens? Well, I think the biggest one is old habits die hard, right? People want to feel important. I want to feel important when I'm at work. And I imagine everybody here wants to feel important when they're working on a project. So people take ownership in something, and it's really hard to give up that ownership, right? To say, you know what, there's a better way. Maybe this is a role better for a designer to do, and me as a developer, I'll just take what they handed over to me. But people don't like that, right? Because we get in that comfort zone, and it's so hard to exit that comfort zone because we're comfortable in what we're doing, what we're creating. We feel important. We feel great about what's happening. And of course, budgets. That seems to also promote silos, right? Like we have to make that budget at the end of the year. And the design team, they got their budget, and the development team, they got their budget. So we have silos just in the way that budgets, promote the organizational structure. And of course, we have roadmaps, reporting, planning, all these things that can hinder productivity on a project. So we're going to talk about some of the ways that we can improve that. Moving on, there has to be a better way, right? And we're here to talk about accessibility. Accessibility first is going to be the better way. And I truly believe that if we can combine designers, developers, and even the product folks together, right, we can have this big, happy love party with lots of emojis and hearts. I believe in this, and we're going to present today why we think this is possible, cross-platform, cross-channel. So I'm starting to dive a little bit into design system speak right now, right? Like, we have different ways to build an application so that we can reuse the work that's already been done. And of course, we're going to talk a lot about open source today, specifically about the FinTech Open Source Foundation, Finos, and trying to create a bottom-up community, even around an application at a private organization, right? I truly believe in this, and Lise can attest to this working at Discover Financial. So, moving along, what the WCAG is that? Well, WCAG, my friends, you don't actually have to read all this, but this is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So this is a system, a standards body that put into place guidelines that we can measure the accessibility of websites and applications. There's some words in here on bold, but it's a single shared standard, the web content accessibility that meets the needs of individuals, organizations, and governments internationally. So this is a great standard to base our work on when we're thinking about building design systems. Sorry, I'll speed up a little bit so I actually give Lisa time for her demo at the end. So the real question, why does accessibility matter, right? Now, I'm not going to dive deep into this because I think if you've been to some of the other talks at this conference or at other conferences, we have so many statistics about why accessibility matters, right? 1.3 billion people estimated, or 1 in 6 worldwide, experience significant disability, right? Significant disability. I'm not talking about less significant too. Like that's just to give you an idea, 1 in 6 people, right? And if we could estimate their purchasing power, right? They could control over $13 trillion of annual disposable income. So there's this fallacy out there that if I build a design, accessible application, accessible web app, then I'm limiting myself because I can't have a fancy button that doesn't have any text in it. So, the designers are limited. This is a huge fallacy because look at all the users and all the money that you can bring into your application if it's accessible, right? Thank you for whoever's putting the emojis up there because it is so true. And one last statistic, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, 75% of Americans with disabilities, surprise, surprise, report using the internet on a daily basis. So, all right, it's not, we're thinking inclusivity, right? We want to include everybody here. So all the statistics together. So what's accessibility look like in 2023? There's been work done to measure accessibility on the internet. There's a report that's made, I think it's in February every year. So the last data that I have is 2023. Well, 96.3% of homepages had detected WCAG2 failures. So, boom, open the champagne. Oh, no, actually, that's really bad. 96% have failures? Like, that's where we're at. That's the state that we live in 2023 and soon 2024 when the new numbers come out. And what reasons? Here's some reasons. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but we can see the biggest one is low contrast text. So just like the simplest thing. And you know what? We have this theme here for the slide deck. We changed the colors. Well, Lisa changed the colors because you know what? The actual theme doesn't use accessible colors. That orange that you've seen in everybody's presentation, it's not WCAG. It doesn't meet the guidelines, so we have an accessible blue. So, one last thing before I hand it back over to Lise. Pop quiz for everybody in the audience, Lisa included. I'm going to create an application, iOS application, and I'm going to use the Apple Developer Human Interface Guidelines. Am I accessible? Hands. I must be accessible, right? Apple, they have so many engineers. They're doing so many amazing things. They must be accessible. Lise, are they accessible? No, they don't meet the guidelines. So, Material UI. This is a really mature JavaScript front-end library. I must be accessible, right? Am I accessible? Lise, am I accessible? No. Sad face. So what's the solution?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Cody. So, Yeah, so the solution in our mind was, why don't we re-examine the way we're all working at this challenge, right? Every company in the world is building a design system, right? You're building it in silos. No one is working together. You have to build a desktop. You have to build mobile. You might have to build tablet, wearables. There's light mode. There's dark mode. It's getting more and more complex, but we're still all doing it by ourselves. Also, the tools are always changing, right? So you may have been building your design system in Figma or Sketch 3 years ago. Now it's Figma, right? So the tools are always changing. The output, the languages that you're using them in are always changing. And the actuality is that we're all just doing the same work. So why don't we work together? Why don't we work in the open source? And why don't we build the logic into how to make things accessible into the core of our design systems? Let's make smart design systems so that when we render we have a singular source for a design system that can render in light mode, in dark mode, on mobiles, on tablets. And we can also think beyond the minimum. Everyone is just trying to reach the minimum of WCAG requirements, and we're failing horribly. But no one's also thinking beyond the minimum, because there are things that we can do to improve the user experience for people who are colorblind. There actually is not one color palette that can satisfy all colorblind people's needs, especially in dark mode. There's also things that we can do for people who are dyslexic or ADHD. They perform better when they have more white space. There's certain colors that they perform better in. If they have higher contrast, it's easier for them to consume. There are certain fonts that are more identifiable and consumable for people who have ADHD and dyslexia. So there's a lot that we can be doing beyond the minimum, but we're all just failing so bad at the minimum that no one's thinking about it. So, let's see. Oh, let's see. Yes, I think so. Are we back? Okay. All right, so we're introducing Theme Builder. So what Theme Builder is it takes your company's brand styles, your core styles, your colors, your grid systems, your fonts, your bevels, all those information, and it creates things called tokens. We call them atoms in a design system. And then it combines those with the logic outlined by WCAG, and we combine that with dynamic theming. And what we get is our theme builder generates, for every color that you put into your design system, it creates 10 shades in that color of light and dark, and it matches it with an on color. An on color is the color of text or font that should be put on top of that will meet the WCAG requirements. And we render that for light mode and dark mode, and we can do it in AA and AAA. So if you are a company working really hard to make your system AA accessible, and then a government agency says, we'd love to use your guys' services, but none of your interfaces are compliant for AAA, you're kind of stuck. Like, it's a lot of work to get there. But now with like a click of a button, you can change that. We're also going to render things in Android, for iOS, for tablet, for desktop. And then we have these additional layers that I mentioned. We create a dyslexic mode, an ADH mode. We have 8 types of color blindness, and we have a motion sensitivity mode. A lot of motion is in applications these days, but people get triggered by motion in applications, and a lot of people just find it dizzying. So people can now turn that on and off. So what we do is we create all that logic in our theme builder, and currently what we output is JSON and CSS. Now the JSON file can be fed into a Figma file that we have that's out of the box, and it consumes those JSON code to give you a branded Figma file that has all the MUI React components. That's how we started. I can also output CSS that can change your MUI React component library. The magical thing there is now you have a designer artifact or solution, as well as a coded solution that match each other and can now render all these experiences for the end user. Cody, how can I get to the browser? I want to show everyone just a...
Maybe turn off the mirroring, or turn on the mirroring.
Okay, perfect. Is that it?
Swipe over, probably.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right, so here is Theme Builder. I won't have a chance to show you guys Theme Builder in its totality today because this is a quick show, but as I said, it's rendering 10 colors in light mode and dark mode for every color that you add to your color system. Now that seems kind of easy, but it's actually not, right? There's a lot of calculations that go into making this. Every color out of the box is not accessible, especially when you consider your color fonts. If you have white and dark fonts, right, you need to have a font color, white or dark, that's going to fit on top of that color. In dark mode, white isn't pure white anymore. It has an opacity of 0.60, so it's really hard to find those colors and make that match. So that's the first thing that we do. But the next thing that we do is we use the concept of an atomic design system to build this entire design system. Now, atomic design is nothing that we created. This has been a concept that's been around for a long time. The creator of this concept is Brad Frost. I encourage you all to find out more about it. But the idea is that you start with the smallest components, pieces of your design system, and they call them atoms. So that's like your colors, your fonts, your grid systems. And then you put those together to create molecules. So a molecule would be like a button, right? A button is taking your font, your color, a bevel, putting it together to create a small piece of your design system, and then you can start building your molecules together. So you put a header and an image and a button together, and now you've got an organism. And then you put those organisms together to create templates, and templates together to create experiences. But the problem is when you use this, you can totally be inaccessible, right? In fact, it is where things really fall apart. So what we did is we went subatomic, and we introduced the concept of protons, neutrons, and electrons, right? And to us, those are the colors and the on-colors that create accessibility. And then when you start tethering your atoms together to create molecules, we will only let you tether together those things that are accessible. But for every component that's created in your design system, we create it in your branded color, but we also create it in light and dark, because you don't want to put a pink button on an orange background, right? So whatever color background you have, we automatically figure out what component or what styling should go on top of that. So here's an example, but better yet, I thought I could, show you guys a sample in Figma. So I've created this library. Now if I drag these components, sorry, let me get that. If I drag these components on a pink background or on a white background, everything automatically updates. The designer doesn't have to know the rules, right? They don't need to know. They just create a component, put it on a background, and it automatically updates. Now the same thing happens in our code. Can you hold this for a second? Yeah. So again, we don't want our developers to have to figure out how this is done. So in our code, we have a data background here. If I change that background to white, everything updates accordingly. If I change it to another color, I'll just do colored. Again, it's just going to update everything automatically. And all the logic is built in here to do everything in all the different themes and layers that we have combined. So hold on. All right. So here are all the different types of layers that we provide. You can have WCAG AA, AAA, you can have light mode, you can have dark mode, you can have desktop, tablet, mobile, you can have no brand, you can have an Apple, Android brand, you can have the 9 types of color blindness, well, none in the 8 types of color blindness. You can have these various cognitive modes, you can turn on or off motion sensitivity, and you can switch between different brands that you may have or need for your company. Now, just these create 3,888 different combinations. But we actually provide even more than that, because we don't just do desktop, tablet, and mobile. We provide you all the different most popular sizes for those different things too. So you can imagine how powerful this is, right? You have now one design system that can create all these different experiences. So, I showed you how the designer can toggle between that. I showed you how the developer can toggle between that. And basically, the end user right here in a settings could just select what they would like to see, right? They probably wouldn't see light mode or dark mode because that's going to be controlled by their device. but they would be able to turn all these other things on and off themselves. So that's the idea of being able to let a user take an experience that is already WCAG accessible and extend it to accommodate their specific needs. But I want to make sure that people understand it's not a Band-Aid that you put on a system that's already broken. Because there are services out there right now that are available that say you can turn on, colorblind friendly mode, but it's not colorblind friendly out of the box. This isn't that. Every rendering of the design system in any of those combinations is already WCAG accessible. All right. Let's talk about our roadmap. So, I showed you how we're creating colors. We're actually updating the way we're doing that. We're going to make sure, like I said, that out of the box, we're giving you the AA and AAA. We're allowing you to tell us what you want your default text colors to be. Currently, we're assuming that they were 121212 for black and white. But you may have a navy black, font or a dark green font. Or like on our PowerPoint, an orange font, who knows? But we'll let you put that in, and then we will use that to render and figure out how to make your colors compliant. We'll allow you to do a number of different things to the colors. We're using Chroma and the latest color generation technology to create the right colors. We are actually doing linear color shades right now. We're introducing a Bezier curve to how the chroma is affected to those, applied to those colors to create more compelling scales moving forward. We are also updating a lot of the controls in Theme Builder. Right now, out of the box, all your backgrounds come, in light and dark and one color. Now you'll be able to pick endless number of background colors. You can add endless number of icon colors or secondary colors. And again, we will do all the logic there. We're also going to allow you to import your own components, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a little while. So right now, the first thing that we want to do is simplify what we export. Remember before I said we were exporting CSS and JSON? Well, to simplify things, what we want to do is have just one source of truth. We want JSON tokens to be the one thing that we export. And what that will do is once it goes to GitHub, we have a token transformer that can export the JSON tokens and put them into a style dictionary that then can be transferred into CSS and applied to any number of applications. This will streamline the whole process. So the next thing that we want to do is create a total design ops toolchain, which means if I am a developer and I make a change to our design system and I push it to GitHub, it would be represented in Figma and also in Theme Builder. And if I changed it in Figma and I pushed it to GitHub, which you can do using Token Studio, I would also see those changes. So now we're keeping everything in sync, right? Because trying to keep design systems in sync is very challenging. The next thing that we want to do is introduce some AI logic. There's some really cool plugins for Figma. So if you create a new design system or a new component, all you have to do is export the code using Anima. And that will give you the React code that would need to be used to generate that new component. And it's utilizing all the tokens that we already have in our design system. So that's very powerful.
It wouldn't be 2024.
Right. We're relevant. We're AI. We have AI. Also, we want to, next thing we want to do is kick off an automatic audit on any changes that go into your design system. So if I'm a developer and I make a change to the design system and I push it to GitHub, what we want to do is to trigger an update from Theme Builder to run an audit and see if everything is still compliant. If it's not, to push the suggested changes, and then you can review those changes in Storybook or in Figma. All right, and then the next thing we want to do is extend the logic. Right now we are just tying this logic into a React component library. We would like you to be able to export that code into Xcode, into Node, Angular, any number of different libraries. And then finally, what we want to do, and this is where we're calling on people to come help us with this effort, is bring your own code. The idea is that every company already has a design system or has a component library. What if you could bring your code, we could scan it, we could help you tokenize that, and then we could get you on the road to building a complete design system like this. So that's it for me.
I'll take it from there. Just a couple, I know I am the 2 minutes between you and your lunch, so I will try to do this in record speed. In 2023, the Accessibility Theme Builder, something amazing happened. Discover Financial donated it to the FinTech Open Source Foundation. So this is a really cool opportunity for this project and a really cool opportunity for everybody in this room who's watching or anybody who's going to watch this video later. Come and join us and help us. This is an open source Foundation sponsored project. This is so amazing, and we see, as Lisa just explained, we have these huge vision of what this can be, what this can become. Thanks to the Finos Foundation for taking over this and providing that governance and securing this project, because we see some really amazing things coming in the future. And Finos, what are they going to do? They're going to accelerate and collaborate and innovate in financial services through the adoption of open source software standards and best practices. So that's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we love. And that's what we want all of you to come and help us do. So why go open source? I think I have about 1 minute. So this will be in record time because it drives value. This brings value back to Discover, to your organization, to maybe Fidelity. We don't know. Anybody who wants to use this project, it's going to bring value back to them if they invest in it, because they can attract and retain talent, engineers on their teams. They can lower the maintenance costs. That commercial software that's so amazing, closed source. You know what? Your employer is paying 18 to 20% in maintenance fees. So imagine if they took that money and they invested it into an open source project such as this one. They can, eliminate those maintenance fees for one, and they can have an impact on the roadmap, because that closed source project, it usually has an opaque roadmap. You don't have an impact on it, but you can in open source. And we have to have an amazing developer experience, right? This is an open source project. We have weekly meetings where we go over the roadmap. We try to get people involved. We delegate tasks. So this is a great way to have, for your company to have a great developer experience, is to create something that has a community around it, because it's an obligation that you have a great DevX. And bring some brand recognition. So I went through all the reasons why developers are going to be happy. Now the marketing folks are going to be happy. The product folks are happy. And you know what? The execs, they're going to be happy too, right? Because they can now walk the walk and talk the talk and reinforce those corporate goals around sustainability and community. So these are all the reasons why open source can drive value at your organization. So I think I'm really out of time. So we have to do something. I need all of you to come and help us do what we have envisioned for this project. That's the QR code will take you to the GitHub repo. But if you go to Finos, you're going to find the accessibility theme builder, or you go to github.com/Finos/A11Y theme builder with hyphens. So come join us. This is going to be an amazing adventure. We need you. Thank you so much for paying attention, being here, watching this presentation. Look us up on LinkedIn, and like I said, go all the way to connect on LinkedIn. Don't just follow us, connect, so we can continue this conversation with all of you. We'll be here for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and if anyone has 1 minute, I can show you guys something pretty cool. I was talking about how it can take a design system and adapt it from mobile to tablet to desktop. So this is within Figma, and I thought I would just show you guys one of the really cool things that you can do. So these are some designs. It's using my design system. I have it in light mode. I can look at it on a mobile device. So let's see. My whole design just changes. I can also look at it in dark mode now, and it does all the logic for me of how it needs to be rendered in dark mode.
So I generated a design system that's reactive and accessible first.
Now it's AA or AAA accessibility in light mode, and now I can go to AAA in dark mode. Now those things are really hard to do on your own, very, very time consuming. All of our components are dynamic, so if you were to hit play in this prototype, the buttons click, the menus open. I think one of the things I wanted to show you was that we also have it being not only responsive, but we have it being, gosh, what is the word? Adaptive, thank you. Oh my gosh. So if I switch to desktop, the thing you'll notice is the mobile nav bars disappear, and now I have a desktop nav. So, you know, this is all one code base. You guys don't need to be building multiple design systems. You can do it all with one design system. So that's it.
I'll put the slides on Sketch. I haven't done that yet, but we'll do that. So please do follow us, connect with us, and get involved in this project. Okay, we're over. Go.